Hello and welcome to the PhD Life Raft podcast. I'm Emma Brzezinski and today I am talking to the lovely Usman Sikander. We are talking about looking after yourself in the PhD process. We talk about the importance of good friends. We talk about financial planning for your future self. And we also talk about the English weather. So I do hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, Usman.
Hi, Emma.
Thank you so much for being here. You are such a generous-spirited person that you've reached out and said, I'd like to talk about what it's like to be an international student doing a PhD, and I'd like to share what I've learned with other people. And I would just thank you so much for being willing to do that, because I know this will be so helpful to other people.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here.
Hooray, 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 hooray. Right, so now you're happy to be here and I've lulled you in. Now I'm going to grill you.
No problem.
Tell us a bit about your story.
So my story is that I came to the UK in 2017 to do a PhD in aerospace engineering. And this was the first time I was abroad. I've never been away from home, and It's been almost like 5 years now.
Yeah.
So, well, the whole idea was to go abroad and have do a PhD, because before that I was working with a university, and to progress to the next stage in my career, I had to get a PhD. So that was a kind of I wouldn't say prime motivation, but that was one of the motivating factors to get a PhD. And of course, I just had recently finished my master's in 2017. So I thought maybe, since I'm in the flow, so maybe, just let's get on with it and try to find a PhD and, try to learn more about the subject.
Love it. And so now you are in your final year, is that right?
Yes, I'm actually a couple of months away from submission, probably.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It's so near. Next time I speak to you, it's going to be Dr. Sikander. I love it.
I hope so.
So we're very near. And that I'm even more grateful for you now coming on, because I know how pressurized those last few months can be. So thank you so much for your time here. That really, really grateful. So this has been quite a journey then, coming away, and the whole, the PhD in itself. But just before we came on, we were saying how people focus on coming to do the PhD work, but actually there's a whole raft of things to think about outside. Do you see what I did there as well? I said raft of things. How good, just product placement is right there. The whole raft of things around the PhD that that's really important to how it is for you. And so that's what you were going to talk to us about. So tell us about what has helped you in your PhD process, the sorts of practices and support that you have put in place.
Right. So I believe that it's not even about going abroad. It's even for the people who come from a different city, for example. It's not just the fact that you're going somewhere in a different part of the world to have a higher education, learn about learn about stuff at a higher degree level. But I think when you move, you change a lot of things around you, because, for example, there would be a cultural shock, for example. There would be a change of, type of food you eat, for example. The weather is different wherever you go. And these are some of the factors that you
Yes.
don't really consider when you are, let's say, living in your home city or home country. Because, so for example, I used to live very close to my university, and I was back home, and a typical day would be like, just get up, drive to the university, do the stuff, do the work, come back, maybe just chill with friends, and coming home, food would be ready, or at least I know where the things are or where to get the things from. But when you go abroad, these things are not present, so you don't have any friends anywhere initially when you go somewhere.
Yes.
You don't understand, at least in my case, I couldn't understand how to spend money because the currency was different, the conversion rates were different. I didn't have the sense of what am I spending. I didn't know a lot of different types of foods that I've because in my country, in Pakistan, I'm from Pakistan, we have very it's quite culturally rich, the food, but I would say English food is very different to the food I was used to.
Yes.
And these are very simple things.
That was very polite of you, Usman.
So, I mean, these are very little things. And when you think about these things, they change a lot of things around you. So, for example, again, I'm very much used to sunny days, warm weather. But in the UK, as you know, most of the times it's really hard to see sun. You would be lucky if you see sun for 3 or 4 consistent days. Stuff. So, so all these factors factor in, and then they basically change everything in your head, because it just changes the way you see things. And it's really hard to explain how they exactly change, but they do have an influence on.
And I think it's so important because you said, these are little things, but actually they're fundamental things, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's this theme we keep coming back to in terms of how important your body is to this process. And your body wants to eat and sleep and rest and relax, and know where it's going. And as you say, it's sensitive to whether it's cold or warm. This is really fundamental, and it's going to be really disorientating when things are different. And we are, as my favourite quote from D'Horacio is, we are feeling machines that think. And so if your feeling machine is kind of out of whack, then you're not going to be able to think properly. So actually, as you say, it's important, really important. So can you share some things that helped you then with that, with sort of settling yourself?
Yes. So I think the number one thing I would say would be to have a social circle. Making friends and meeting people, it's incredibly important. There are no two ways you can think about it, because in the end, everyone needs a support circle around them. I didn't have a lot of friends when I started my PhD, obviously, because I was very new to the university, and I didn't know anyone before coming here. And it was quite tough in the start because, no matter how hard things are going, obviously, you need friends around you to just, maybe go somewhere, go for drinks, or play video games, or I don't know, things like that. So having a social circle, I think that has definitely improved.
Yes.
I wouldn't say social circle. I would say a support circle.
Right.
Yeah, because in the end, you do rely on your friends
it's really important
for a lot of things.
Yeah. And I think that can be a real challenge as well, isn't it? Because when we're feeling vulnerable, that's the time when we're least likely to kind of make the effort and go and out and meet people feeling vulnerable. And actually, what I hear you saying is that's really important. So even if you don't really feel like it, it might be worth just taking a step. And did you meet people through common interests, or how did you meet people?
I think it was mostly university. So I'm a part of CDT, and CDT is a structured PhD program that is available for national and international students throughout the UK.
Right.
in many different universities. So basically what happens is that the CDT program takes a cohort in every year, and that usually consists of 10 to 20 individuals from all parts of the world. And that was my first point of interaction with some of the best friends I have now. That's how I meet. And then obviously
Brilliant.
there are so many events all universities put out just for networking and socializing. And I have been to a couple of those events, and I was incredibly lucky to meet a lot of really good people who I have learned a lot from. And that's one of the things. Initially one might feel that, okay, well, this is a university event. Well, what am I going to do there? What am I going to do when I go there? But you never know who you're going to meet and what you're going to learn from them, and that's the best part about it. The unknown factor. Because if I think of it this way, the people I spend most of my time with right now, I didn't know them 5 years ago, let's say, and that's an incredible change. And it's an incredible thing.
What a
So
gorgeous way of looking at it. What might you learn from these people?
yeah,
I love it. I love it. It's beautiful. So just remember that, people, when you're about to step out, you might, and I do think people are incredibly generous spirited generally, I think, and we've got to believe that, haven't we? People are nice generally.
Of course.
Awesome. So we've got this sense of going out there, building a support system for yourself, and meeting people and finding new friends. Anything else that helped you? I'm saying that it's a bit of a cheat, really, because I know there are other things you want to talk about. So tell us some of the other things that have helped you.
So this was number one thing. Finding people who you want to be with for the next 4 or 5, or maybe for the rest of your life.
Yes.
The second most important thing that I have experienced myself is trying to have some sort of self-discipline, because maybe some of us or some of the people have never had this kind of freedom before when they move abroad. It's a lot of things happening around you. So in my case specifically, I would like to say that the second most important thing I found was trying to understand myself better in terms of, what keeps me up all night, how can I improve my sleep, and how can I improve my general, mental and physical well-being. And I have been reading around these kind of things because at one point in my PhD, I was just really struggling with a lot of things. Sleep is one of them. And I started reading books around them, different books around physical and mental health. And I just picked up 2 things: trying to force yourself to sleep early if you can, and try to having a consistent routine, let's say, sleeping habits, sleep hygiene, and walking or running if you can. And these are the 2 top things, in my opinion, because I have seen myself and most of my friends, a lot of my friends, I would say, there just comes a time after every 2 or 3 or 4 weeks that you get down into a very difficult very strange kind of rut. And it's really hard to get out of that. And it's very important to get out of that. So some of these things, having a consistent routine, working towards a better sleep hygiene, trying to find an activity that keeps you moving. So for me, that was running. I've never read before. I never used to read books. I never used to, go out for a walk or running. These are all new things, and I think they've helped me incredibly.
Amazing. And what I love that you took that on and did the research for the kind of the meta part of the PhD, if you like. And that's something we talk a lot about here, that actually there's all your subject knowledge and all the reading that you need to do for that, but then there's you're going to need to think about the bigger picture too, about project management, but also about managing yourself. And like you say, your routines, and because it's your, I keep saying it because I mean it, it's the PhD is a personal development program, and you get a kind of bonus.
100%. I've read this at a couple of places that the product of your PhD is not your thesis, it's you.
Yeah.
And I think that's very true.
Yeah. And so I love that you've taken that on and that you've got positive things in place now. And would there be any particular books that you would recommend, or am I putting you on the spot? We might put them in the show notes if you can't think of them just now.
Yes. So, I mean, there are a lot of books, and it really depends on, readers' interest. But two books that I have found really easy to read and understand. Like I said, I never used to read before. One of the books is called Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Love that.
And the second book is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Oh, I haven't heard of that.
It's a really nice book, and it's all about improving your mental toughness, I would say. Yeah.
Amazing. Right. Well, we'll have the details of those in the show notes for people to have a look, because I think building up that library of shelf-helpery during the PhD, I think is really, really important. And it's your mindset gym. That's what you need. Mindset gym.
Definitely.
So anything else? So we've got making friends, getting that support system going. Mm-hmm. We've got this sense of having those tools to support you, the self-discipline and the mental support for yourself. Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Yes. So I would say two other things that are also very important, I think. One is finding a hobby that takes you away from work. So for some people that could be, I don't know, maybe cycling, for example. Mm-hmm. For me, it has always been video games.
Right then.
And that has it's at some point, even up till now, it has been like every day, all of us, majority of us from my cohort, for example, meet on Discord, and we play some games and we talk about work and we talk about what results are not working, what results are working, how did the experiment go, things like that. So it's really nice to talk about those things in a light mood, because it also gives a kind of sanity check to whatever you're doing as well. Plus also, of course, you get to spend more time with your friends, and then you're playing video games, which if you like, that would be nice. And the second important thing is, again, working on your finances, that in a way to basically support yourself from medium to long term. And this is particularly important for people who are funded by, let's say, who are funded by either university in the UK or funded from a university from their home country. Right. Because obviously you don't understand, or maybe you don't really worry about the finances when the funding is coming in quarterly or maybe yearly or monthly. But towards the end of it, everything just accumulates and it gets really hard. So if I go back 4 years, I think I would start working on my finances right from day one. I have managed it pretty well up till now, but I think everyone can do better in that regard.
That's really interesting, isn't it? In terms of thinking of your future self. And I think we've already mentioned this right up this final phase, where actually you'll want to really dive in deep to your material. You don't want to have those other worries around. You might want to not be working on, because I know other people, people often have jobs to fund their work. Yeah. Actually, at that point, you might want to be just having some time where you're just focusing on your study. And indeed, if you're an international student, you don't necessarily have the option to have work outside. So thinking about how you're going to make your finances work so that you're looking after yourself throughout the PhD.
Yeah, Yeah, I find this to be a very important factor, and almost no one really talks about it.
No,
It's very important.
no. And do you have any tips for us with that?
Uh, Not specifically. I mean, for example, with the rent prices going up so much these days, it's incredibly hard for almost everyone, student community. I'm talking about student community, to basically find a place which fits into the budget. And I'm not an expert on the subject, but I have a general feeling that a lot of people are going through this cost of living crisis these days,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's really tough for everyone, even people who are working full time. So I would say maybe look at what kind of support is available from the university. Maybe plan where you want to live beforehand. You might need to do a very extensive kind of research on what sort of areas you should be looking at when you want to live, because obviously you don't want to live very far away from university, but then if you're living close to university, it would be usually expensive compared to maybe some far off places. I used to eat out a lot because I didn't cook a lot in the start, so that was
Right.
quite a, I would say, money drain for me.
Right.
Try to learn to cook if you can. That is going to save you a lot of money.
Right. Right.
I would say, and it's very nice as well, just to get away from the desk and go to the kitchen and just I mean, it sounds so common and usual. It's a very usual thing to say, but when you are thinking about your PhD all day, you would find it very nice and soothing just to get away from that feeling and think about something else, for example.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it comes back again to what we were saying about in terms of the body and kind of attending to your body, doing something really physical and practical, making food, nourishing yourself, all the sensory aspects of that. I think it can be really, really pleasurable, and like you say, really soothing. I think it's great. And I was just smiling to myself in terms of people, when people applying to the PhD, it's kind of like, right, well, can you cook? This should be part of the interview process.
It should be. It should be. I have met a lot of people. So I also work part-time with the university as one of the chief residents in the university halls, and you do come across a lot of people who have never cooked before.
No.
And it's a sight to see when because it just adds up to their stress.
Yeah.
And you don't want that kind of stress.
I love it. What I can envision now is Usman's Cooking for PhDs YouTube channel. That's what I feel needs to happen.
I'm still learning. I mean, I wouldn't say, if I say I've just mastered pasta, my friends would be very annoyed, but I'm getting better.
I love it. We can learn alongside you. I know. You're busy enough. You're getting doctored. You're busy enough. Oh my goodness, there is so much good stuff in there. So much good stuff, and really practical, as you say. Actually, I think when we go into a PhD program, we expect it to be all about deep thinking and big thoughts, and of course that's in there, but actually the really practical aspects of it are really important too. And you've reminded us of all of those things, so thank you for that.
No problem.
And to thank you for that, I'm going to ask you an impossible question. In terms of, have you got a top tip for us?
Top tip? Well, that's a tough one. Yeah, I would just say look after yourself before anything, because if you're not feeling good, nothing is going to go right. You have to feel good before anything else comes, I
think that's so, and feeling is such a safe with feeling machines, and looking after yourself and feeling okay, because like you say, if you don't, the work isn't going to happen.
Yeah. It is pretty much like that for me, at least. I know a lot of the people I know, because in this whole process, it's just you're all constantly thinking about, I don't know, maybe papers and your lab work and why certain things are working, certain things are not working. You might be writing a paper for a conference. There's so many deadlines. But if you forget about thinking about yourself or taking care of yourself in all these things, then you would end up in bed and you won't feel great. And I think we all need to remember that PhD is a process, and basically you are here to develop yourself, learn new things, and that's not only academic. That applies to you as a person as well. So people skills, person skills, and cooking skills. I don't know, maybe public speaking skills, all sorts of things.
Love it. I love it. I love it. It has been an absolute pleasure, Usman. Thank you
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was great.
Thank you all for listening.